Riddle me this, riddle me that, man. This is our review of the Batman. Alright, so let's just cut to the chase. There was something that I mean, it's not that I didn't like it about this movie, it's just that I feel like this didn't even need to be, like, a Batman movie. Like, what I mean by that is if you take the plot of this movie and insert any other, like, well-known detective or even a new detective into this movie, then it's still, the plot still kind of works. Because this was full-on a detective thriller, basically, with Batman as, like, the sort of detective and stuff. And there wasn't a lot of action and things like that. It was more just solving riddles and things like that, which wasn't a bad thing, and it was a different take on, you know, Batman. I know that's what, like, Batman was supposed to be when he was first introduced in the comics and everything. But I feel like this was your standard kind of, there's a serial killer out there, he's leaving riddles and clues and things for a detective to try and catch him. You could put, like, Sherlock Holmes in this movie, and it still would have worked out the same. Like, I get that the Riddler is, like, is a Batman villain, but, like, you could have called him anything, you know, and he could have been a typical detective villain that he's trying to track down. You know what I mean? Like,
it gave me a lot of, like, Law and Order vibes for this. Like, this is the kind of stuff you would see in Law and Order, you know?
I mean, that was cool, and it was different, but it was, like, I don't know, it was, to me, that kind of made it seem weird that there's a dude dressed as a bat in this movie. Like, anybody could have been investigating this.
See, I like what they did having, because this was kind of different than a lot of the previous Batman ones, which focused more on, like, the Joker, or Bane, or, you know, Penguin, and stuff like that. Penguin was in this, but he wasn't the main villain yet. So I like that they kind of made the Riddler, instead of just being like a side villain, the Riddler was the main villain this time. And I kind of like that because it's a different side of the Batman villains that we got to see.
You're kind of seeing them starting out sort of like these lower quality villains for now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It didn't. We may have gotten a tease at the Joker at the end of the movie when the Riddler is in the prison, but I like that they focused on that. The only thing I wish they would have done was had the Riddler's backstory be a little bit different, because they did this whole plot where Thomas Wayne, which was Bruce's father, had some, like, dirt in his past, if you will, and his mother was, you know, went through some stuff when she was a little girl. Her father killed her mother and then himself, and she went into insane asylums and stuff, and Thomas Wayne was running for mayor and didn't want this stuff to come out, so he tried to pay this reporter off to not release this information, and he ends up going to the crime lord Carmine Falcone, and he ends up killing this reporter so that he has something over Bruce Wayne, or Thomas Wayne. You know, like, oh, I killed this guy for you, now you owe me something, you know.
And somehow that had to do with the Riddler.
Yeah, and like, I thought it was going to turn out to be where, like, the Riddler is, like, the son of this reporter or something, because he said he was an orphan, so if his dad got killed because of Thomas Wayne, then that could explain why he hates the Waynes and all that stuff.
Right.
But no, he was just an orphan that basically because of Thomas Wayne's death was forgotten about. And that, I mean, it still makes sense for a story, but they could have went the other direction. Why bring up that whole thing about him working with Carmine Falcone if it's not going to come back into play anyway?
See, and I get what they were trying to do, because, like, the Riddler's whole thing in this movie was just, he's about exposing secrets and things, which it's kind of hinted that he might know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but then they also kind of, like, they made it seem like he also didn't know that, but he knows Bruce Wayne has secrets or something, because he kind of targets Bruce Wayne as one of his people that he wants to kill and stuff, but he doesn't target Batman. He just leaves messages for Batman in all the crime scenes. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird that they had him just exposing other people's secrets, but like it should have been something, like you said, it should have been something connected to his past as well. That like this is the kind of thing that I share with Bruce Wayne. Like it was his father that made me an orphan or something like that. Or
what it was.
Yeah. It was just about exposing secrets.
He explains when Batman arrests the Riddler, he kind of explains that, because of Thomas Wayne's death, everybody forgot about the renewal project, which Thomas Wayne had fought for,
right,
to basically create homes for orphan children, and everybody forgot about that and was more concerned with what's going to happen to Bruce because of his parents' death. So it was kind of like a, because of you, I'm in this situation type of thing. But I don't think he knew yet that Bruce was Batman. But that kind of explains why he hated Bruce Wayne. But I don't know why they had to focus a lot on that whole murdering the reporter thing. Well, I guess just to show that Thomas Wayne wasn't as good a guy as everybody thought he was.
That's what I said.
But you still could have had, it still would have worked for the plot. He still could have hated Bruce because of his father's death. But it also gives a second reason, that not only did his father's death take away from the renewal project,
it also
killed his father. So he has a double reason to hate Bruce Wayne. I mean, but they didn't do that.
I mean, it did make sense, in terms of why he was killing the people he was killing. Some of them were politicians and the upcoming mayor.
All of whom have lied about something.
It all connected to that same thing.
Yes, and all connected back to Thomas Wayne.
But he was about exposing secrets because the city is so corrupt because of these secrets that's kind of what his whole thing was. Right. What I don't understand is why they had Riddler basically flood the whole city at the end. That didn't really seem to fit with what he was trying to do. His whole thing was about exposing all these secrets and things, but so then he just floods he blows up a bunch of the walls or whatever around the city or something, and it causes all the water to come into the city and flood the city streets, which we've never seen a villain do in the Batman movies before.
Did more than Joker did in The Dark Knight.
But I mean, it's kind of similar to what Bane did, but it just kind of didn't really make sense. And then they still kind of overcame that at the end, even though the streets are filled with water now. It's they're all just still... I mean, a lot of people died, I'm sure, but it just that part didn't really make sense for his plan. But everything else, at least if you pay more attention or read more into it, it does kind of make sense. But at the same time, like you said, he doesn't have a connection to the thing that he's trying to expose, really, necessarily, I guess.
Right.
I did like how he revealed to Batman, when Batman was interrogating him after he got him after they caught him, because he wanted to get caught, I guess. He ended up in Arkham Asylum. When Batman was interrogating him, he told him, basically he used Batman as the strong man to get these people out in the open, or to cause the thing that would lead to them being murdered and all this stuff. Get them out of hiding wherever they're protected and stuff. The one, he left him a note that said, "Bring the rat out into the light," or something along those lines.
Which ended up being Carmine Falcone.
Yeah, when they ended up arresting him and he was being brought outside to the cop car, Riddler shot him. Yeah. So that was the bringing him out into the light kind of thing. He told him, because you're stronger than me, I needed you to be the muscle behind this. You can beat up these guys. You can bring them out for me to take out and all this other stuff. Or you can solve the riddles and bring these people to the light so that I can do my thing. So he was kind of I'm smart, but you're the strength, and we work together, even though he's insane, and Batman's we didn't work together.
It was kind of like what the Joker did in The Dark Knight too, though. He was like I need you.
We need each other,
and we need each other.
Yeah.
It was kind of.
I did kind of like
that. Yeah. One thing I really liked too was we kind of got a different backstory for Martha Wayne. I don't know if it was like this in the comics, but apparently she was an Arkham. And she married into the Wayne family, and the two founding, they were both founding families of Gotham City, which is why it's Arkham Asylum and, Wayne Enterprises and stuff. Yeah, I didn't know that. That might have been in the comics, but of all the Batman ones I've seen before, I don't think I've ever seen where she was part of the Arkham family who
I don't think that was in the comics. I think I read something that said there was a different family that was connected to Bruce Wayne somehow or something that founded Arkham Asylum and all that stuff.
I mean, so that was a kind of cool backstory to have, where the Arkhams and the Waynes.
I know, and it kind of parallels what Bruce is doing. Like all the villains he's capturing, he gets them sent to Arkham Asylum, which is like his mother's,
right, and it makes sense because his mother ended up being in different homes and stuff because of what her father did.
She was an orphan because her parents were dead, so it kind of paralleled. So, see, when I was first, like when the movie first started off, I was kind of glad that they didn't go into the backstory of Bruce Wayne again, because we've seen that in like every adaptation of Batman. We know his parents got killed, but the fact that they used that as like a central mystery, that there is still something else going on with that, like he still doesn't know who killed his parents, but then they kind of think it has something to do with what the Riddler is doing, and all that. He finds out all these secrets about his parents he didn't know about, and then he's kind of mad at Alfred because Alfred kept it from him and things
Played
like
by
that.
Andy Serkis in this movie, which was kind of weird.
I know, I'm used to seeing Michael Caine as
well, nothing against Andy Serkis. I just don't think this was like the right role for him.
But yeah, so I thought they kind of gave it an interesting twist to his backstory, and it didn't really like ruin the movie, because we've seen that already a bunch of times, but like they added a twist to it, so that made it kind of better, I think. I wish there was more like action and fighting scenes in this movie. I know it was meant to be like a darker, more grounded,
more of a detective type of thing than
more so than what the Dark Knight was. But there wasn't a lot of. I guess we've just grown accustomed to seeing like fighting and things like that in all the Batman movies. So like the fact that really the longest scene that I think had action in it was this car chase where Batman was chasing the Penguin through the streets of Gotham and stuff, and crashing into other cars and all this other stuff, causing all kinds of damage, possibly killing people.
I mean, and possibly the end scene too.
Yeah, I mean, so there wasn't like a whole, other than him fighting a bunch of goons and stuff throughout the movie, there was more just talking and solving the crime. And
I was okay with it though, because it was a different take on Batman, and I do like that they kind of went back to The Dark Knight Rises and had him team with Catwoman again in this movie, played by Zoe Kravitz. That was kind of cool to have. That was kind of because that's what they did in The Dark Knight Rises. They had Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, so that was kind of cool. And then I think she'll end up probably coming back and helping again. Still no Robin though, so maybe, who knows.
Well, see, what I liked about this though was that they said Bruce Wayne has only been Batman for 2 years when this movie starts, so it's like, has he put other criminals away before, which we assume he has, because like the Joker is in Arkham Asylum, but he's not the Joker yet. I like that they're setting that up and planting the seeds for these other criminals that are right now just kind of like, they're figuring themselves out too. They're not these high-level threats yet. Like the Penguin isn't a crime lord yet, but I think he will be.
Now he will be, because Carmine Falcone got killed.
Yeah, so if they continue this as a big like series or trilogy or whatever they decide to do, which I think they are planning to do that, and they're planting the seeds for it. I like that we're not only seeing the kind of this younger Batman still trying to figure out himself, like still trying to figure out what it means to be Batman, we're also seeing the development of the villains into these higher threats. So that's kind of an interesting thing that we haven't seen yet either.
Yeah, and Batman he didn't have as much technology as you saw in... Like the Dark Knight, like the Batmobile was just a car.
It seemed like a car with jets, I think, on
just
it.
Like just a bigger engine.
I wanted the tumbler again.
But one thing I did like about the equipment that he had was he had this contact lens.
Oh yeah, I like
which could record and snap pictures and stuff of the things that he sees, and you obviously can't tell that it's a camera because it's
right, like he could wear that even just
so
as
he could wear it and still record all this information and take pictures and stuff, with just automatically, and then just when he gets back to his lab, he'd just take it out and find the recording and stuff. So that was kind of cool. We've never really seen that before in a Batman.
Back to what I said earlier about like it being more of just like you could insert any detective in here. I thought it was just kind of weird seeing Batman at all these crime scenes, like with the cops.
I mean, the cops even thought it was weird.
Yeah, I know, because there's like, you got like EMTs and the crime scene investigators and all that in the room, and here comes Batman with Commissioner, or with, I guess, Lieutenant Gordon at this time, they just come walking in and everyone's just like staring at him and stuff. Like, I thought it was kind of weird too, like this dude dressed as a bat. Like, honestly, in this kind of movie, it didn't feel like you needed a guy dressed as bat, you know, like a Batman.
Right.
For this kind of movie, but that didn't take away from it. It's still, if you're a fan of like thrillers and like mystery kind of things, and it's a really good movie for with that aspect. But like for a Batman movie, I don't know, it just felt like I don't know if it was, I'm not quite sure yet if I think it was better than The Dark Knight, or because I know The Dark Knight everybody looks at as like the best Batman movie ever. Maybe the best superhero movie ever. So like if I was to compare it to that, I'd say if you're looking for the action and things like that, The Dark Knight is the better one. If you're looking for a more grounded detective kind of Batman
which
version,
is what Batman was technically supposed to be anyways.
Then this one is good for that. So like what do you think?
I
like,
mean,
do you think,
that's a hard choice. I'm not gonna say that this was a bad Batman movie because this was definitely better than some of the other ones. Batman and Robin,
Batman Forever,
any of those pretty much. But whether or not it's better than The Dark Knight, right now, having only seen this one time, I can't really say for sure. I think maybe if I rewatch it, maybe I'll get a better opinion of it. But for now, I can't say as to whether or not it's better than The Dark Knight. I did enjoy this movie, though, and I know a lot of people were giving it hate because of who was playing Batman. But I don't think Robert Pattinson did a bad job as Batman.
Yeah, and I like that we saw him more as Batman in this movie than Bruce. Like, we didn't see as many scenes with Bruce Wayne as we saw with Batman. Like, that's kind of a reverse. Like, especially in, like, The Dark Knight Rises, even.
Yeah.
We saw more Bruce Wayne than we did Batman. So at least it was kind of like, because every time he figures something out, he has to go talk to Gordon or whatever. And he can't do that as Bruce Wayne, so he goes as Batman.
I like, too, that they focused on the younger aspect of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Like, he's only been Batman for 2 years. His parents died 20 years ago. So it wasn't like, oh, as soon as his parents died, he became, Batman. But he wasn't gone for however long he was, kind of like the one in The Dark Knight and Batman Begins and stuff. It was almost as if, like, as soon as he was old enough to take over the Wayne Enterprises, he basically did and then became Batman right then. Like, he was still young. Right. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was a full, he wasn't fully aware of who he was trying to be as Batman yet. And I kind of like that.
Right, because even throughout this whole movie, he calls himself Vengeance. Like, every time someone asks who he is, he's like, I am Vengeance. But then at the end of the movie, he realizes he doesn't
He has to be more than that.
He has to be more than Vengeance. He has to be, basically, he said, I need to be a symbol.
Right.
Which is what Batman was in the Dark Knight movies as well. If I were to give this a rating, as a detective or like kind of mystery thriller movie, I'd say it was almost perfect, like a 4 out of 5 or something, whatever. As a Batman movie, I'd still say it's maybe a high 3, middle 4, 4 out of 5.
I mean, I'd give it a 4.
Comparing it to like The Dark Knight is tough to do. I mean, it's better than all the original Batmans, I think. But
yeah,
I like that they took a different route, and I am curious to see where they go next, like what the next movie's going to be, because if this is a more like detective based Batman, it's going to feel weird if the next one in the series has more action in it, but it's also going to be like, well, how do they make him a detective for the next one? Like, the Riddler is a good like serial killer murder
gave me like Jigsaw vibes.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, to have, like, Penguin or something as the next main villain of the next movie,
I think Joker's going to have like some involvement.
Yeah, it's going to be like there's no kind of mystery to it, so it's like that takes away from what this Batman was in this first movie. Right. But I don't know, I guess we'll see. Sometimes sequels are better than the original,
Yeah, I mean, look at The Dark Knight.
As its own standalone, right now, the start of a brand new Batman franchise, I think it did really well, and I think it's worth checking out if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, let us know what you guys thought of it down in the comments section. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. And also, check out, we recently did a review of all 3 of the original Dark Knight trilogy movies, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. So if you like those movies as well, go check out those videos we did. Thank you for watching the video, everyone.
And remember, leave the scumbaggery at home, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye guys.
Subscribe.